Hey everybody, just Cronus right now. So as you all know, there was not a new Black of the Black Times Infinity episode out this week. There was no live stream because of a few issues. First, Stitch was out this week. Prodigy wasn't feeling well, and Blue had an anniversary. So it was the first time that he can have a date with his wife since he had little baby Sebastian born. So you're just gonna be me and Old Ninja. So we decided to postpone the podcast, but then we got an issue where, well, we're not going to have a new one out this week because of a bunch of different scheduling conflicts. So I decided, or we decided, I asked everybody if it was okay, that we just drop a Balance Exchange episode this week to kind of fill in for the time. So Balance Exchange is a podcast that I do with Papa Bear, and it's more about political issues and some other sort of more serious issues. And so this one is going to be about our current education system with the United States. So hopefully you guys like it. It's a reminder that, yeah, Balance Exchange is still going on. Season 2 started dropping like a month or so ago. I think the education episode was episode 3 of Season 2. So we had a lot of fun doing that one, just like really understanding how education is interconnected with a whole bunch of issues in the United States. In the United States, which has to do with like property taxes and a whole bunch of other stuff, and like where funding comes from. So I think that it would be a really cool episode for people of this podcast to listen to and at least get some content out this week. So hopefully you guys like it. And I'll put in a link to the description on like where you can find Balance Exchange now, because I know for the first season we had it all out for Be the BTI. Then we decided to kind of split it off onto a whole different separate podcast. So it's kind of a reminder that, hey, podcast is still going on, but it's just on a different channel. And just for you guys to get some sort of content out this week. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. In the future, we might double up maybe next week on for Be the BTI. I don't know yet. Got to talk to the guys if they have time in their schedule. So yeah, you get something. So it's better than nothing, I guess. Hope you guys enjoy it. So here you go. Hey everybody, Cronus is here once again with
Papa Bear, and today we're going to have a discussion a little bit loosely, but mostly focused on education and basically how that applies today and how that is basically a social contract that we've all agreed is a thing the government should provide for us to some degree. And then where's that line, especially with conversations today about like, people saying college should be paid for, right? Like that. So basically making it a public college education, the same as we do public to high school, and whether or not that would make sense.
Hey, it's me, Rasan. I don't know, man. Huge hole in my, understanding. My fellow Americans.
Papa Bear here.
As long as whatever you're doing doesn't hurt anyone else, I don't care.
Different perspective of what an interesting topic is than I would assume.
This is Balance Exchange.
So I guess we need to start with our normal introductions of, so Cronus, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer called Take 10, and it is an imperial stout with pretzels, chocolate sauce, caramel, and peanuts. It's from Perennial Artisan Ales. They threw in the kitchen sink with this bitch.
Nice. Yeah, I thought I saw the can there. I was like, does that can have pretzels on it?
Yeah, it does.
Right. So we did a couple of little episodes while I was RVing. So we traveled from California all the way to Disney World in Florida and then back, little circuitous, went up to Memphis and then through Arkansas, Oklahoma, and back. And obviously in a trip like that, I chose to not be keto, and I kind of talked about that a little before. So yeah. I am trying really, really hard to get back on the wagon. It's been rough. But anyways, to work towards it, back to the Trulies. Yeah. So I have the punches still in there. I think I had them when we were in here last time in the studio. But I haven't really got to try too many of them. I think all I've had was the fruit punch. So I'm going to start here with berry punch.
Nice. Actually, I just had a Truly. They make like the adult pops now for Truly. Did you see that?
We had, I think it was a different brand, but we have definitely done some of the frozen 0-calorie alcohol popsicles, and oh man, they are amazing.
It's going to be backwards, I think, on the thing, but that's it. Yeah.
No, it worked out. It's good.
Yeah. And it's the lemonade ones, so they're delicious.
So at this point in watching our videos, you may or may not know that I am an active duty United States Marine. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years, so I know that it's really important for me to make sure to get this out there. If it's your first time watching this, please stick around and make sure you understand the disclaimer. if you've watched a whole lot of our episodes so far, feel free to go ahead and jump ahead to the new content. So what I need to talk about today is that I am not authorized and have no way of being approved to speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. So any opinion that I give or any concept that I discuss today is the position and the opinion of just me, myself, just a man who has a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in leadership and organizational management, and has spent my whole life looking at government structures and social contracts and how these things are supposed to work, what the philosophies and things behind them are, and read a lot of books on that kind of stuff. And it's definitely one of my personal and key passions. And so when you hear me maybe give a position or a concept on something, that is only my own position. I am not a public affairs officer for the Marine Corps. I am in no way giving what the Marine Corps' official position on anything would be. And honestly, a lot of the topics we're going to cover here, I'm pretty sure the Marine Corps doesn't have a particular position on. So if you do have any questions about what the Marine Corps' policy on certain things could be, you can definitely research that and find those out, or leave a comment or send us a message if you can get a hold of us somehow, and we can maybe be able to answer those questions for you. So with that said, let's get you back to this week's content.
And we're back. So,
what are you reading?
Oh, what am I reading? That's right. Right now I'm reading Sufficiently Advanced at Magic, book 2, which is On the Shoulders of Titans. And I just finished Awaken Online Hellion like a couple days ago. It was amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
So
looking forward to it. But we talked through this already, right? I have to finish Tarot series. So I'm on Inferno. So it's Awaken Online. It's like the secondary series he started, and it's Tarot. And I'm on Inferno, which is the last one. So what's interesting to me about this, knowing it too, is right. So some of the characters, we're talking about Awaken Online, us, right? So we've got our shirts on for Awaken Online tonight. Characters from this book, for those who know enough about the series, right? Because I didn't read these in published order, which I feel like is definitely the right order. I feel like I wish I would have known the publishing order and read them in that order, because I met characters in a book I feel like that came later that I would have already been introduced to in a different series, which would have been, I think, probably a better introduction to them, and be like, oh, it's these characters I remember from this book. But now it's kind of flipped which book that happened in for me. So
okay. You're talking about like the quote unquote druids that you're talking about?
Yeah. So because the side quest for Frank didn't come out until after Inferno, right?
No, that came out actually a while ago. Like, they came out in the correct order, because I caught up with the series with Unity, and that was before Tarot. That was before the Tarot series came out.
Okay, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it was because of how they were introduced and then how critical to other stories they were, that felt like it kind of would have been cooler to meet them as almost like a passing thing, and then be like, oh, it was those people he saw in the other one. But yeah, I
almost wish that he would go back and redo the numbers and just don't put the 0.5 and side quest on there. Just put it, Awaken Online 1, 2, 3, just go from there.
What order should I read them in?
yeah. But I understand why he did it, though, because the main character Jason, he's the main character of the story.
Yeah.
And then in the Tarot series, Finn is the main character, so I get it.
And Jason's not in it at all. Like, you don't hear from them at all. Not a mention. I thought it's completely different stories, so that's good.
Yeah, I love that series. And apparently, like, the next book. So I don't know if you follow him, Travis Bagwell, on social media, but he gives like timelines of like what he's working on, and one of them is the Air Avatar is going to be coming up pretty soon. He's like introduced in Hellion briefly, and it seems like a badass. And then he's working on Jason book 7. And there's another one that he's going to do too. I forget which one that is, but yeah, he's working on a lot of stuff. And he's a lawyer, which is weird. Full-time lawyer.
Right. I read through a little bit of his bio, and the idea that he was working all that stuff for all the time and decided this was something he really wanted to finally get done, and it took off for him. So I don't know if he's still doing law, but I'm assuming he's focusing on writing now at this point with the success of these books.
I hope he makes enough money for it to like replace his income, because he's a really good writer.
Right.
Yeah.
Better than a lot. So it's funny, I was describing it to someone the other day because I was wearing this shirt to work, and they're like, "Oh, really cool shirt." And so I was like, "Oh, it's a shirt from a book about a game set in the future." Like, what? I was like, "Oh, hold on." But I was like, okay, let me just describe it this way. It's been, you've seen Ready Player One, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I was like, it's basically a book written like if Ready Player One was actually really good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how I phrase it. He's like, holy crap, that's the best description I've ever heard.
Yeah.
One of the guys who's read both. And for me, that's what it was. Because what's cool about Ready Player One is the nostalgia stuff,
Yeah.
which can only take you so far. Whereas I think what he's doing with these is truly, honestly, like really interesting characters, really interesting story development, better, just genuine books on their own. So
Yeah, I feel bad for books that, Ready Player One falls square in this category. There's a few other books too that fall in this category where they rely too much upon like pop culture references.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's cool in the moment, like if you're from that era, but it's not going to stand the test of time. You know what I mean? Because you're going to make all these references, and people are going to be like, I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It'd be like trying to like read, even like with Shakespeare, except even more. It's not going to have the same sort of classical feel to it as Shakespeare did, because we can obviously understand the basic words that he was saying, but it wasn't like really obscure, regional references to things. So yeah.
Well, you saw that even in the conversion over to movie with Ready Player One, where like things like Ultraman in the book, they're like, no one knows who the hell that is, so we're gonna make it Iron Giant.
They also couldn't afford like all those licenses, all licensing for like anything. I mean, there'd be no way for them to make. It'd be like a $1 billion movie for just licenses.
I can just imagine how much it was to make it the way they made it. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of CGI. But it's good. I think if I hadn't read the book, I would have enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
But after reading the book, it's like, man, you guys left a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. And that's the problem. And I always say this, and talked to my daughter just about it the other day, because I was talking to her about a series she should read. And I was like, but watch the movies first, because if you watch the movies and you enjoy them, and then you find out, oh, there's a book series, and you read the books and be like, these books are way better. You had a good time. You enjoyed yourself better.
Yeah.
Twice, rather than enjoying the books a lot and then not enjoying the movies at all. Because it's almost always the case that if you read them first, you're just not going to enjoy the movies, because they're never going to be able to go like inside characters' heads the way you can in a book. So
yeah, and then sometimes they just really mess it up. Like you remember I, Robot, the movie?
yeah,
So did you read the book?
I don't think so.
It's nothing like not at all. Like I was just like, what is going on? Like I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't get it because it's an Asimov book. It's based upon his Robots and Empire book series. It's really long in Foundation, which they're making a show of on Apple iTunes. But it was like the original character was like, he was a white guy, and he had to leave Earth on like his first like detective thing, like in the story, and it's like the whole thing in this movie is all on Earth. There's nothing about humans that live on other planets, nothing about like how they're biologically changed. So I was just like, what the this is just about the robot, and the robot's important, but his name isn't Sonny in the book, and he's like, he looks like a person. Yeah, not like a robot. It's weird.
That's the way Aragon. Did you watch and read those?
Yeah, I heard that was one of the most egregious ones. Yeah.
But like, I did not even know those were books. So I saw the movie and was like, that's a pretty cool movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty cool. I was like, I like dragons, I like magic and stuff. So then I picked up the book and was like, are these how are they ever gonna tie in the other books? You can't. It's not possible. Like, the way the story went forward, there's no way. It's like they never intended to make a sequel.
Yeah, that sucks. Anyway, so we need to do a whole podcast on just books. But yeah.
So I guess I could start with a purist libertarian concept on like public education would be that there should be no Department of Education at all. That shouldn't be a government thing. That people should, schools should exist, and there should be like standards. I could say, remember we went back to like regulation versus like directly managing it. So like we should have laws that say education for certain areas needs to exist and should meet these certain standards in order to allow states to like transfer certifications between states. So like you graduate from a certain level of school in Tennessee, then another state would accept that. So those standards need to exist, but like they would say, let the public market handle it.
Well, but how do you have a standard of education if they don't have a Department of Education?
So instead of doing what they're doing, and again, I say it definitely wouldn't exist the way that it does now. I think once any libertarian sits down and thinks about it for a little bit, like there still would need to be a department, but what their job would be like inspecting and ensuring that those who get certifications, like if your school becomes certified by the DOE to say like you can hand out a high school certificate, it's because you met certain standards, but that would be their job, not like paying for schools to exist, which is a big part of what they're doing right now too.
Okay. Trying to think about it, because I know there's like, for me, when it comes to the Department of Education and public schooling in general, for me, a lot of it comes down to funding, and I think they are the ones that distribute the funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I have because the way they distribute the funds right now is like, it's totally wrong. And I don't know if you need an entire department per se to like distribute funds, but right now, as far as I know, the funding comes from all public school funding comes from the local governments, right? So it comes from taxpayer, depends on like who, if you own a home, so they get the money from your property taxes. Yep. So if you live in a place that has high home value, then they collect more taxes on your property, and then you should get better schools. That's usually how it works. But if you're in a place that doesn't have high property values because of, say, redlining, and everything is like super depressed values, then you have literally no funding, and there's like no, the way it exists right now, there's no like federal credits that offsets that. You know, that's why you have like a school in Compton is real shitty compared to a school in Beverly Hills. You know, or it's shitty anyway, but yeah.
So I mean, for that particular piece too, the sword cuts both ways, basically, where because the land value is lower or higher, then the taxes are lower and higher, and then there's more funds for the school. But a lot of times the land value is also related to the quality of the schools, so then they feed off of each other.
Yeah.
We were looking at a place up in Big Bear, just because like we like looking at properties potentially for like, hey, could we get it and then have a place to go for our own weekends and then Airbnb it? We've been talking about this a little bit lately. I was like, but if we stayed there or we decided to buy the house, so it's like habit through looking through houses. I go down and look at what schools are in the area, because the schools and their ratings on like this regular school rating site or whatever directly tie to the land value too. So if you make that school better, land value will go up. Yep. So like if we could figure out ways to tie the two and drive both up, you know, it could then improve the land value, which then improves the taxes so that you then get more and then put more back into the schools. But there's also a lot of, so like, I know I just voted. I was actually going to bring my little envelope I need to mail out. I got a special ballot for August for Clark County in Washington, and voted for the mayor, 3 city council members, and then the Evergreen School District, like superintendent or whatever. But a lot of times on those ballots, there's like an additional tax for something or whatever to put funds into the school district for specific purposes and projects and things. And those are good ways. And what communities have to understand is what it's going to be used for.
That's the gray area.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the money? There's no every single, you know, Democrat and Republican, they talk about transparency with everything they're doing. There's never transparency. Like it's always hidden. There's always some crazy weird slush fund, you know, that they're using to like reallocate money. Like take, for example, the border wall, like how they were taking money away from the DOD for like, the money was set aside literally for schools, and they were taking that and using it for the border wall. I'm like, yeah, I mean, the border is important, but it's not that important. Like, it's not that important for most people. So
more than schools and educating.
Yeah.
I think people's concern with that becomes then, you know, like, because I have a whole different thing on immigration and citizens, and we've talked a little bit about that too. But like, the concern becomes if I have someone who's not a citizen and isn't paying their taxes, but they live here, they're probably going to be going to public schools. But we're going to find a way to make sure that person goes to school. So we're paying for their schooling, but they're not paying into the system. So that's where people get frustrated.
Well, so
but it's not.
On some level, they pay into the system, sort of. You can't. It's literally impossible to avoid all taxes if you live in the United States, because you have to buy something at some point, and that's going to be taxed. But you're not going to be paying property taxes, though. But at the same time, you can say the same thing about any single renter in the United States. Like they don't pay property taxes.
Nope.
So
Someone's paying property taxes on their property, though.
yes, they are. But especially right now with the housing market the way it's going, it's like it's going to be a nation of renters maybe pretty soon because man, these housing prices are skyrocketed. Like where I'm at right now, like it's encroaching in the millions, and I'm just like these places aren't that great. So, but thank you for the wealth.
Yeah. I saw someone posted about your general area too the other day. It's like when you pay like $2,000 a month in rent to then get up in the morning to like get ready for work, and like the street poop collectors haven't been by yet, so then you walk out your front door and step in human shit. It's like it's when your day starts really great. It's
like 3,000 to be totally honest. Like if you're gonna rent, it's gonna be like $3,000. It's crazy, and it's gonna keep getting worse. Like when you have all these people that are this ties into education, okay? Because property taxes tie into like obviously money allocation, like we just said, but you have corporations that are buying up all these properties just to rent them out again, and that's going to keep driving up the housing prices. Which is if you already have a house, it's great. I'll pay a little bit more in property taxes. I don't care because when I move, I'm going to pull out like hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But if you're a new homeowner, or if you're a prospective new homeowner and you want to buy a home right now, no. Especially not where I live. Like you have to have at least 20% down. A lot of places are only accepting cash offers, and it's like, who can come up with $1 million in cash? Like, come on, man.
Right. It's insane. I mean, and we've been looking at places, and we found a gem when we got this house, because even when we bought last year, a year ago, like prices were already going up. But we managed to get this for a good price, and it's already significantly improved. But my whole thought on that is like, we could sell right now, but we'd have to figure something out because we still have to live here. But then I don't think it's going to sell for that much when/if we do decide to sell in a few years, whatever. I just have to be realistic and expect that at some point this is going to kind of ramp itself back down and things will get back to realistic. But in this area, it's pretty rough too because it's Joshua Tree. So they definitely are a lot of Airbnbs being bought by like corporations to turn them into Airbnbs.
And that's just look at the houses being sold around you, and you just be like, wow. I think for us, year over year, it's over 11% increase. And when the houses go for like $800,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like there's 3 houses that are for sale on my street, and one of them it just came out at like $1.2 million. Like that's what they're starting bid. So it's the nicest place, the nicest house in the block though. So it's a really nice house, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot. And like I know that the regional. So like for this region, all of the city councils got together not too long ago to propose that all of the cities, because there's no legislation that covers like a region, and it's all being affected throughout here because of Joshua Tree and like the OHV areas nearby. It's a very resort kind of region, which is really weird. I did not know that,
Yeah.
A lot of travel here.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about like, hey, we need some kind of legislation that covers all the cities that limits their ability to do this stuff with Airbnbs. Like we need some kind of rule that makes this harder for those corporations so people can still rent, because it's insane for a lot of locals. Like locals can't even stay here in freaking Joshua Tree and like Yucca Valley. You're like, what? Why can't I can't find a house or a place to rent in my own hometown? Like that's something is wrong with that. So there's definitely been discussions about it, which I wonder how it's affecting others. So to tie it, we'll come back to it. So I did vote. I had to vote for the mayor and all 3 city council members. And being the diligent, citizen that I am, I'm like researching every single one of these people. And every single candidate in their like main candidacy statement, plus most of the like articles in the newspapers, had at least some paragraph where they were talking about the homelessness situation in Vancouver. And I was like, obviously I don't live there, but I know it's a problem in lots of places. I was just kind of surprised it's one in Vancouver specifically. But I would assume, right, that a lot of that is tied directly to this same subject of like, why are house prices so high? Like, why is it so impossible to buy or rent a place? And it's got to be tied to something where there's these companies now figuring out that Airbnb is a thing, and you got travel into the region just to tourism stuff. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, no, I read a bunch of things about it, and Airbnb is like is a huge issue too. because you have places like literally you'll have entire neighborhoods that are all Airbnb type,
Yeah.
home rentals, and it's just nobody really lives there. But then you have like all these people that are, because I think the statistic was there's a 7 million houses short for our current population in the United States. 7 million houses short, and they're building all the time. But like a lot of places have waited way too long. Like the place I grew up in, Newark, California, they didn't build a new home for like 10 to 15 years, and this was like in like the 2000s. And it's like, how do you not do that in the middle of, it's not Silicon Valley, but it's the Bay Area, which most people consider Silicon Valley, just not. I'm just saying. But yeah, so they had like this huge housing crunch there. They're building houses now, but now they're all like crazy expensive. They're all like $1 million. And now because of space, they're building them, smaller or more and more compact. So there's like no backyards, townhomes, condos, stuff like that, high density housing. And it's like, man, you guys really, really messed this up, really mismanaged this whole entire region. And now only, tech guys like me and like some other, really wealthy millionaires and people like that can afford these housing prices. If you're a normal person here, like if you live in this, if you have the service industry, you have no fucking chance on buying a home here. None. Or unless your parents can pass wealth down to you. That's the only possible chance you have to survive here and buy a home.
I didn't, yeah. It's weird. So I play these little weird city building games, and it's like, in my head, it's like, you don't let that residential housing like not be produced in conjunction with the population changes that you have happening. You monitor that, and you're like, I need to make sure that we have space and that construction's happening for residential housing. I know it's a stupid connection, but
no, it's not.
It's a driver of everything else that you do.
Remember playing SimCity? Like you're running out of resources. People.
The newest one that I love is Cities Skyline, and it's really, really good. It's probably the most accurate and like most modded I've ever seen. And there's tons and tons of ways to make it very, very realistic. So I watched a crazy video about a city planner, like a real official, like his whole job, his whole life, he spent 25 years doing city planning. One of the YouTubers got him and like introduced him to it and how he does mods, and then gave him like a challenge to build something, gave him the basic stuff. He's like, this is really, really realistic. Like a lot of what it's talking about are like super important things for us. He's like, I'm at the point where I almost want to use this game as a way to introduce students that I'm teaching to concepts. Like he's like, I might start using this and get students interested in certain topics. And he was super blown away by how detailed and really good this game is. And that's one of my favorite games.
It would be pretty cool to like simulate stuff too. Like before he does something, like just simulate it, see what the game says.
Well, and I do it all the time now when I'm driving and we get stuck in traffic. I'm like, oh, that's because this and this intersection are too close together with not enough lane management of this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, there's the problem right there. And you just would have to add this to fix that problem. It's just weird. So to education, for me, like I think that one, we've become so used to the idea that it would be really, really hard to remove public education from our society now. Like there's no way that you could just shut that down and say, figure it out, right?
Yeah, no, me personally, I would not want to remove public education. I think it's one of the most important things that America has, even though our current situation in public education is terrible, which we'll probably get into, but it's better than nothing. So.
Yeah, because much like housing, and I'm going to try to watch this segue. Much like housing and residential like space, a huge driver of actually having a successful society is how educated they are, right? So if you can continue to drive up the education level of your people, the overall society will get better and better. Especially since that means they're producing better things, they're inventing new things, and you then are able to produce industries that are smarter and better and allow for more free time for others who can produce creative things, which entertain people and do all this other stuff. Like none of that stuff's available until you get past this basic, education level.
I thought we were going to do the
basic level
thing.
Yeah, the needs, right? You get past some basic level of needs, and then you can work towards cool stuff, right? I do need to finish up that T-shirt, the Maslow, just put the triangle, like rainbow triangle.
Well, that's probably it's probably not what you think, though. thermal. Like you have to put in words on it so they don't think
Yes.
like we're lesbians or something. Not that there's anything wrong with being lesbian, but
Yeah.
it's not what we're
If
talking
you wear
about.
it last month, it's like you're like, are you wearing that for Pride Month?
Yeah.
No. I swear that happened. So we had brightly colored Disney shirts on. Like it was our Disney shirts with like paint colors and stuff. And I was like, oh, it would go really good with this mask that I have. That is like basically, it looks like crayons. If you put the rainbow of crayons across and like melted them down, you've seen that, or like the paint drips down, it's like a dripping art thing. It's like, oh, it's a cool mask. It would go with the thing. So I wore that and wore my Disney hat to the end of the day. I got so many looks. I'm like, what is the deal? And I realized I was like, oh, it's Pride Month. I'm wearing my thing, and I got like the whole family with me. I was like, they're like, you're not gay. Why are you like? Because for one, there's nothing wrong with supporting. There's nothing wrong. But like, I don't know. It was also Central Florida, so could be.
Yeah, there's that. Florida's in Florida. So.
But yeah, I was looking at some looks. I was like, what the? And then I realized, like, yeah, I kind of am wearing a rainbow mask, I guess. But it's
so weird how like they co-opted that in like. Because like when we grew up, like the rainbow wasn't even like it wasn't associated with gay people at all.
No,
like at all. It was like a girly thing, like rainbows and unicorns and shit. Then all of a sudden, like just changed to like the whole LGBTQ. I was like, okay, I guess nobody else wanted the rainbow. So
I mean, I want to say even as long ago as when Logan was little, like it wasn't even really directly associated to them yet. Because I remember a conversation with my brother about like My Little Pony, and there's one whose like tail is rainbow.
Yeah,
he was kind of a brony, and no, he was honest. He's like, dude, it's a cool show. Like the characters are interesting. Like this story, I was just like,
the
okay,
show is actually really good. I watched it with my daughter.
See, you have to watch it. Yeah. I did again with my daughter too. I was like, these are kind of cool.
Yeah, especially the movie. Like, they were like kicking ass in the movie. I was like, okay. Took a
then I found, I can't remember what the name of it is. Gosh, but they're like very similar, but then it's all bloody and gory and gross at the end of it. I can't remember what it is. Oh. Anyways, there's a stupid cartoon series that some people did where they took very, very the same exact animation style where it's very bubbly and cartoony and animals and stuff, and then they all die in gruesome ways at the end. It's pretty terrifying.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I can't think of the name of it.
It's not Suicide Happiness. It's like that though.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, now it's gonna mess me up. Anyway, back to education.
If only we had focused on our memory while we were getting educated, we could have actually remembered this. It's not important, so it's easy to forget. But I think that what we do need is to better understand, like how the choices we make impact the kind of education they're getting, and then what I'd like to talk about is if we talk about college being a requirement, because many jobs today are kind of requiring that, especially in the United States, where, like we said, we've continued to push education because our society said it's important, and I don't disagree, to the point where now that's just a norm and kind of expected, and that now even a bachelor's degree is really needed for pretty much most basic jobs, except that we also need to understand and consider trade jobs and things like that. So trade schools need to be included, because to me, I was talking about it the other day, and it's actually back to my school and VR stuff. We're still trying to figure out how to start a program and get it paid for right under VR. Come to find out, the Army Corps of Engineers school for the prime power school, like the people who do welding and generators and things like that for the Army Corps of Engineers, they've been doing VR for welding for like a decade, because they obviously don't want to like hand some entry-level soldier all these welding resources for one, and like the safety associated with welding with oxyacetylene and a bunch of other things too. Like, so they've been doing exactly what I'm talking about, which is like you go into VR and you get that intro piece where you're actually picking up things and connecting physical stuff and selecting them and setting knobs and selecting the numbers and basically as close as possible physically doing the thing you're going to do in real life. Then you're not wasting all of that steel and I don't know. I was like,
I've used actually what you're talking about. So at Augmented World Expo, it was in AR, not VR, but I think it was Miller. They have a bunch of welding equipment. I'm pretty sure it was Miller. They have like an AR headset set up and like obviously the physical tools where you can like do your welding, and like if you messed up, it would like tell you like where you messed up and like how to fix it. And they had another one.
So like you'd hold the torch,
Mhm.
and you would see it working, even though it was not actually hooked up to anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like it had like one of those like weird like circle QR code things. And so when you put the glasses on, it would extrapolate that into like whatever it was supposed to look like. And then so when as you're doing it, like it'll be like different kinds of metals and your tool. Like it was pretty dope. And they had like a whole bunch of other. That's why I always believe. Ever since I went to the Augmented World Expo like years ago, I was like, this should be more popular than VR. It should.
Yeah.
But nobody's like really pushing it because they don't understand that until you go to like a trade expo. You don't understand like the wide, like all these wide applications that you can use with it.
So there's a big one that is on basically like interactive education stuff and using these tools in different ways. Going in Orlando in like November, December, that I've actually managed to sell both me and the Army on, sell the Army and the Marine Corps on. So we're gonna be able to go out to that.
Nice.
Hopefully November, December, get to go and for one meet the you saw that video that I did for AFCIA or whatever?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so I want to say you hit me on it. So like the Army Chief Warrant Officer 5, Paul Sankey, who was on that, I mentioned that conference to him. He's like, how do I not already know about this conference? He was really frustrated. He's like, I am absolutely going to sell us. We are going to have to go. Like, I've got to get the command here at Fort Gordon to push us out to this. So it sounded like we'll both be able to be there and kind of like really start pushing the communications organizations within Army and Marine Corps, hopefully, towards like improving our education systems through using VR and AR. So it should be pretty cool.
Yeah,
But good.
I told you a while back. Like I know like the guys who put on like the VR and AR stuff here, and they're just actually starting to put it, ramp it back up. They sent me an invite to go to like one of their meetups. So I'm like, I can't go yet. I'm trying to get Blue from Black House Infinity to go because he's a VR guy too. But I'm like, eventually I want to go. And if they start doing FTVR and AWE again, I want to get you to go. So you can see like all this stuff. And then like, I can actually have you shake hands with like some of the higher up people because they're cool with me. So.
Yeah. And if you can get the invite, I could probably get it funded and let them know too. Like that means you could have a dude like in Charlie, like I'll wear a uniform to get those pictures with it. Cause it helps them. It helps me create awareness for what we're doing.
I could probably get you for free, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but I've never paid for one.
You know what that?
I've never paid for one, so let's go for free. We got press passes.
Yeah,
and then now, I mean, we have a podcast together. I already have another one where I get press passes through. So, and if you get like, was it AFES or whatever to like sign off on it, you could do it for free. You shouldn't need to have funding for it. So
no, I mean like they'll pay for my travel to come up there.
Oh, the travel, yeah, that's important. Yeah,
I'll get the school to pay for me to travel.
Yeah, gotta get the per diem.
It could be that I'll have them let me drive my RV up.
Yeah,
we were looking at an RV up to your general area, so we might.
Yeah, I mean,
might be half an way to know where to go.
I used to because when I used to be a contractor, if anything was within like 150 miles of me, I'd just take my motorcycle because they still pay me miles. But on a motorcycle, miles are cheap as shit. So I would save so much money, and I wouldn't stay in a hotel. I'd just, drive back home or whatever. So.
Yeah, we're doing. Do you remember? Maybe I don't remember this. Do you remember what a CCRB is? You heard of that?
No.
So it's a course curriculum review board. That's where we get everybody together and talk about what we're teaching and what we need to change to make sure we're teaching what everybody needs us to be teaching, right? So we're hosting one, Camp Pendleton, in September or whatever. I already reserved Lake O'Neill for my RV. I'm going to go out there for the week.
Nice.
Just like chill on the lake, fish, go into the conference, come back. So,
yeah.
So hoping that I could get them out there, but obviously the family here will be in school, so bringing it back to school.
Yeah, it's coming back around. I'm still trying to get my little one in kindergarten. So yeah, wait list. Gotta love it.
Okay, explain that.
Well, she's going to Montessori, so we want to keep her in Montessori, and there's wait lists for those things. So she's been in there for a couple of years now. And we're trying to keep her in Montessori and go to kindergarten.
So it takes me to, because you talk about like waiting list, it kind of seems like made me think towards like lotteries and the and like the vouchers and charter schools. I mean, these are all things I guess we could talk about.
Yeah.
So the voucher system I think would be first. So that basically just says like it's not free, everybody pays for their schools. Each school has a specific cost based on their ratings, and then each citizen based on whatever our taxes for whatever area. I don't know how they would calculate it. I haven't. It's never made sense, right? Every time I've read one, it's always like, well, where would you get that number from? Where does this come from? How much is my voucher? How much is your voucher, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so then you can pick a school based on the voucher that you have, and then how far you're willing to drive your kids, I guess.
Yeah, I never like those sorts of things. So like the vouchers, that's basically like school choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me because what those programs do is it allows those communities that are poorly funded to stay poorly funded, and it routes even more money to the schools that are properly funded. And it's like, so if people can't afford to, have their kids get picked up in a car or have like a school bus or whatever, if they can't afford to get their kids like these nice schools, then what's the point? And also, it's like people just totally ignore like the amount of stress that it puts on a kid to like literally have to ship them to another school, leave their whole community behind, and like try to fit in with like this other whole different group that they don't even live anywhere near. So it's already gonna be there's already gonna be classism in effect with these systems. So why won't you just properly fund both schools? Like, to me, that's the easiest way to do it. Is just have a standard for the minimum amount of funding for a school, and do that. And if some schools are getting better than others, still I get that. But right now in America, you have schools that are horrific. They have terrible scores. They're falling apart, and nobody's doing anything about that. Let's put them into these affluent schools, but it's like that's not the problem. The problem is that you're not funding these schools properly.
I think so. A big part of this comes down to like accountability for the school, because the only issue I would have is we could put all the funds we want to in a school, and if it's not managed well, and you give them the money, and the money, like we talk about with any other program, right? As soon as you put money into it, it's a government organization. Is the money actually going to what it needs to? Is it being taken by anyone throughout the process and not applying to the kids so that the kids actually get an education like they're supposed to? And that oversight generally comes from parents, right? So those affluent schools, the parents have all the time in the world to be able to get in there and say, hey, no, why does my kid not have what they need in order to be successful? Yep. And that's not always the option in a lot of those poorer neighborhoods where these schools are, and they could get all the funds they want, but if someone's taking it, no one's going to be able to hold them accountable for that. Well, I don't say no one, sorry, but like it's not as prevalent in those communities to know that you have absolutely every right to go in and tell that school that they need to be providing the education that you need the kids to have. It's kind of frustrating. One other thing on it too. So right now, Cindy's teaching in a school that is a fairly poor area, and her biggest frustration is when she provides feedback and tells them like, hey, your child is struggling and needs these things or whatever, and gets zero give a shit from parents. Like, this is the opposite of how it's supposed to be. Yeah. You were supposed to tell me that your kid needs this. And it's like, she honestly feels like sometimes there are parents who like do not give a fuck if their kids learn anything or whatever, and become successful in their life, or are able to strive towards better life for themselves. She's like, that if you put effort into your kids getting smarter, they could maybe do better than you. Because I think that's where we are. Right? Like, why I work so hard is so that my kids can hopefully be even better than I am.
Yeah.
And I see her like heartbreak sometimes. Like, it's so hard on her.
But I think the problem is, it's totally true. Like a lot of parents, obviously they are responsible for their children. Right. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem that most people don't think about is like, if you're just barely surviving, like just getting food on the table, it's like, how many resources can you put towards, getting your kids higher basic education needs met? How do you, if you're working 2 or 3 jobs just to like make ends meet so you can live in some place that has like super high rent, and it's just like, I understand and I feel for them because, my parents were sort of in a similar situation when I was younger. We were poor as shit. And it's like, when you're poor, like, education is not a problem. Getting food is the problem. Yeah. So
I think with that set from you, I think the scarcity versus abundance counters at 3 at least.
Yeah.
Because it ties to so much of what we talk about, because it's honestly a lot of times, right, the haves versus the have-nots, and then also like us versus them. And I think that it's almost like keeping that system in place helps us make sure that there is always an easy way to use an us versus them system to keep some people involved and engaged and able to understand like something needs to be done. And so you can just make it them versus those other people by just identifying the fact that there's these other poor group, there's this wealthy group, and you guys can fight against each other.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of times it's really the poor versus the poor, because most, like, when you're poor, like, you don't
Poor versus the middle.
Yeah, well, yeah, the middle as well. But like nobody really has time. Like if you're poor, you're not thinking about some rich guy. You know what I mean?
No.
You just think about getting food on the table, and you just don't have mental. There was like I wish I had the statistics up, but there's a observable drop in IQ when you're in the scarcity mindset. Like if you can't afford a $400 extra expense, like your IQ drops because you're constantly, your resources in your brain are, how can I just survive? So if you're in a just survive mindset, like you're not, you can't, these are luxury things that we're talking about. You know what I mean? For a lot of people. And I think that it's easy to miss that, you know, because we're far removed from that now. Yeah. But we've both been there, you know. Yeah. You probably more than me, because I mean, you said you were homeless, man. So I was never homeless. Well, technically no, but you know, it's
and it's crazy too, because I remember that I went to Portland because it was harder to be homeless in Vancouver, because there weren't really places that I felt worked out to kind of like sleep easily, and I don't know. But in Vancouver, the one time I did find something decent was like there was a Goodwill truck, and like it was like one of those places you could drop off your donations, and usually they closed it up and locked it at night, and it was left open, so I was able to go in and like lay on clothes, or like, and I think there was like a couch, and I could cover up with some sweaters and clothes and stuff, whatever. Wow. But it was weird because I was talking about it with someone today too, when I then talked about, or I was reading about the homelessness in Vancouver. I was like, I told her someone was down in Palm Springs, and they're like, I guess I could go wait here at the airport with all these homeless people outside the airport. I was like, there's no homeless people in Palm Springs. It is too damn hot outside. Palm Springs. You find your way somewhere else where it's not so hot. Which made me think like kind of the opposite. I remember being in Thailand on the beach in Pattaya, and like people were just laid out along the beach street, just under trees everywhere. Like there was at least 100 something people just asleep on the boardwalk type area, underneath a tree, on the beach, whatever. And I was like, it would be really easy to be homeless in a place like Pattaya, Thailand, where it's always like 80, 70, 80, 90 degrees. Like it can get hot, but it's also humid, and you can find shade and be fine. But like, it's also never freezing cold. I was like, you imagine being homeless in Chicago? Yeah. You're going to die if you stay out in the cold.
Yeah, but there are some homeless there, especially like New York. They're having a huge homeless crisis, you know? And it's just like, man, it's terrible. Yeah, but when you're, sorry, go ahead.
What do they do during the winter?
You got to bundle up, man. You got to wear newspaper, shit like that. You put it on your body, man. Like it's crazy. Anyway, just getting back to like, so when you were homeless, like how many extra resources did you have to think about like your future, or you know how well you're getting educated, or you know, obviously you figured it out, so it can be done. But just think about like the average person, you know, that's just like, and you didn't have any, as far as I know, like any extra issues. You know, there's people out there that have fucking extra issues tied with just being more than just being homeless, you know?
So part of it was the idea, I was too young for anybody to rent a place to me. Even though I was working and going to school, I put my brother to stay with some friends because I was worried about making sure he had a place. But then I didn't want to put too much of a burden on friends who were already trying to help and take care of me. Again, probably didn't need to feel that way, because these are people who in the end ended up, you know, really stepping up and helping. And I think some of that is where the concern I have with government involvement at the federal level is a disconnect from it being a local community, like close society problem, where the solutions for me were all people who personally cared and wanted to help, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody has that, but with what we could do, if we could find a way to make a system that says you can find that like at a close level, like you can't make it a federal program where like you go to some federal center that's managed by the central government, because it'll never be good, right? But what you can do at that level is say, you guys have to have a program to take care of them, and we'll give you some money to take care of it, but these are the only standards and only requirements. But get people who care, help those volunteers, build a system in a place, make those the requirements. Because when it's you and it's your community, like I read these things about Vancouver and I'm like, I want to go back and help fix this immediately. My heart like is like, I gotta go do something and help fix this. And there are more people who are that way. There were people there who helped me, and it was that closer knit group society kind of thing that was able to do that, until I was able to then get on my own feet and move back into, normal stuff by getting a job.
Yeah.
That got me out of there, to be honest.
Well, it's like an interesting situation, because I think that we put like all these millions of dollars towards the homeless problem, but like the main thing is in the name is not having a home. And like there's been no like real push on just building some free homes for people. Yeah, okay. If you want to talk about socialism, whatever, but like there's so many people are homeless. Why not just build homes for them? Like, and then figure out the rest. Like,
and we talked about. I don't think it was on the actual regulation episode. I think it was an episode later, and we were kind of mentioning it, and we talked about how we would almost need different regulations so that the housing could be cheap enough, and also not nice enough to want to stay in. It feels like it's a terrible thing to say, but I want you to be here. I want you to be safe, right? So that you can be out of the elements. Like we talked about that Chicago issue in the winter, and New York in the winter, like a place where you could go and it's at least warm enough. It's out of the wind, it's out of the snow, right? But it's also not like a 5-star resort that costs a crap load of money, and somehow this is what we're saying we're going to give to homeless people, which no one would support. We're not talking about that. But you also, even a basic house, like if we built every person your studio because it meets like housing codes or whatever, like, and that might even be more than is necessary, like to be a shelter from the cold and the heat, right?
Well, the crazy thing is that some places do that. Like there's been like individuals that have built houses for homeless people, and the local government shuts them down because they say, well, it's not regulated, and we don't have control over it. It's like, you don't need control over it. They're just trying to help people. You know?
You don't need control, but like it still needs to meet regulations. But what we would need, and we talked about this that time, was a set of regulations specific to that housing code, which it wouldn't need anywhere near as much electricity. It wouldn't need anywhere near as much, of all these other things. But it would still be a hell of a lot more than just sleeping outside in a tent or in a sleeping bag or on a park bench with a newspaper, right?
Yep.
So we will have to title this episode "Education or Homelessness." And we have bounced back and forth, but they are tied, right? Because it's not always the case, but it definitely contributes that if someone is less educated and doesn't have the ability to find those jobs that could pay them more, that there's a better chance of them being able to be homeless, especially in this ridiculous housing market we have right now. Yeah. If you can't afford a place because you don't have enough of an education to get a job to pay for that, that could be a part of the problem.
Yeah. And it's like, especially here, where I live, because, there's so much, it's what I think you mentioned before. It's like having like a group of people that kind of foster each other. Like the Silicon Valley is not by accident. Like it's very much there's so many of us here because we know that so many of us are here. So it affects the whole economy, and we don't think about it. But I mean, we have basically destroyed part of the Bay Area to serve us, and it's pretty messed up. Like we're paying like all these. This is the problem that I have, is that I pay all these taxes. People like me pay all these taxes, and I know that there's a whole service industry like Uber and DoorDash and all, just grocery store workers, blah blah. Go down the line. It's a service industry that they're not getting paid a living wage, and because of that, they can't own at all a home where they have a job, and so they're pushing out like where you can live like further and further out. Can you imagine like driving miles just to like work a minimum wage job? Like that's what it can be like here. It's insane. We have people here that live like 50 miles away that work a corporate, quote unquote, corporate job, and they have to literally live in an RV or in their car during the week and then drive home on the weekends. And these are, white collar workers that have to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
people with a degree, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. But people are just like, oh yeah, it's okay. Meanwhile, the state of California said we have like a huge surplus, and so much of a surplus in tax dollars that they're giving away like lotteries for the COVID vaccine. That is so silly to me. Like, keep the lottery money and put it towards the people in general, people that actually need it. Not how are you going to give away $1 million to somebody to get a shot that was free?
Because it's people paying attention to whoever is saying that they need to do that, so it gets some votes.
Yeah.
And again, you can imagine, right? I'm going to say that, like, I can't imagine ever doing anything specifically as like a campaign item to try to generate votes. I feel like if I was going to get elected for something, I would want it to be done on merit of the concept of the things I want to see done, right?
Yes.
I don't want to change anything. So voting today, I was reading through the main, so like when you put yourself in to be elected, you have to fill in all these different sections. It's like prior elected positions, education, jobs you've had, like all this stuff, right? And then one of them is like, here's your statement block. You got all this, write what you want, write whatever you want to say about what you want to do. So for the school district superintendent, there were 3 people running. One's the current superintendent. One had no comment, like no information put in on her stuff. And I was like,
Yep, you're not getting nothing then.
yeah, like I could go start doing external research, but if you can't even put the effort forth to fill the actual information for the official post page, which I'm telling you, like my county and the state luckily does a really good job of making sure the information is accessible for voters, which I have to do a little bit of work. I do have to actually go to the county website and look, right? I can't just, it used to be included. So you would get like a manila size folder and you get a packet, right? I don't do that anymore. I'm trying to save some trees. They say just go to the website. When I sent a thing to my county election commissioner or whatever, like you need to include a QR code now.
Yeah.
Like you put a QR code on the thing. There's plenty of extra paper that still has to get recycled.
Yeah.
Put a QR code on there so I don't have to just like Google search because other people won't. I do a little bit of work. You need to scan this and it will take you straight to the freaking voters pamphlet, right?
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. I'd send them an email because I've actually talked to them several times because of the issues with moving around and being a military member overseas. It's gotten to the point where like I literally have emailed directly to the county election commissioner. But one of the people running against the incumbent, I do tend to think, especially if it's a first-term incumbent in most of the local positions, I tend to try to run for that first term, trying to get reelected because you only spent 2 or 3 years working in that position. You've probably now finally figured out how to actually make some. Yeah. If you wanted to make changes that I agree with, then I'll go ahead and vote for you again and give you at least a chance for 2. But this person running for the position said, like, the things that are wrong with our education system is we're not teaching enough history and civics. We really need to teach students about the republic and like our responsibility. I was like,
yeah, it's done and done. Yeah.
This one, I want this person driving education because it's like those little things. I'm like, those are the most important. All the rest of the stuff was okay, but that like sold me. I actually, dang, I did save it as a picture because I wanted to read exactly what you wrote.
Well,
sorry. So I figured, we're talking about education today. It just seemed like providence. We talked about before. We're going to talk about education, and then I was voting for the.
Wait a sec.
Just
because you moved too much, you went super pixelated, and I think you're almost back.
My phone.
Oh, because you moved your phone. Yeah. so you probably can't even show it. You can try though. Because as soon as you started moving it, like everything just kind of pixelated and stopped working well.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but
Okay.
super delay.
So I'm just going to read it. Are we good?
You can definitely read it, yeah.
Okay. The current curriculum in our schools is lacking, especially regarding the teaching of civics, the Constitution, and United States history, as well as general world history. The basics must be taught rather than the many alternative teachings that are currently being pushed by some. Again, maybe there's some stuff that we need to talk about outside of what you think is maybe the standard norm, but the first few things made me think good stuff, right? Children need to be taught how to think, not what to think. Indoctrination is rampant, and too little substantive learning is taking place. I was like, this is awesome. Without a well-rounded education, including knowledge of how our republic works, our protections under the Constitution, and how we are all linked throughout true history, our children enter the world as empty vessels that anyone can mold for good or bad.
Okay, like what the person said is it sounds really good, but you might want to research like a little further into it, because if they're into like the whole like we're going to teach history and then it's gonna be like some weird patriot program, because that some of the things the person wrote sounds like what like Governor DeSantis of Florida was talking about with his whole like patriot program, like indoctrination, even though they said not to indoctrinate. I get that, but and this goes back to actually what we were talking about before the podcast started, is this whole anti-critical race theory issue. So I kept hearing all these people, mostly on the right, talking about how we're going to stop critical race theory from being taught in our schools, K through 12. And I was like, okay, well, what is critical race theory? Every time I heard them bringing it up, like nobody actually said what it was. I was like, well, what is it? Like, I just want to know what it is. So I looked it up, and apparently, like the main gist of it is basically telling history from a more honest perspective, which is not favorable for some things for America. So when it comes to like actual race issues, like teaching what really happened during slavery and Jim Crow and the civil rights movement, and even up until today, and it's not going to have America in like a positive light. But I was looking it up, and they don't teach that anywhere in K through 12 schools. Like as far as I know, anywhere in America, it's a really advanced class or really advanced course if you're going through college for a certain degree. But it's not something that is taught in K through. Because I was like, if you want to talk about critical anything, like you're not going to teach that in K through 12 more than likely. Like the most critical thing you want to teach in K through 12 is maybe in high school, and it's maybe critical thinking. For critical race theory, to me, I'm like, you can't teach a kid that. Like they're not going to understand like anything. Like, so that's why I was like, it doesn't make sense. Like, what are they actually talking about? And it's all just nonsense.
Well, is there a movement to try to teach that in like early education to change? Well, part of the concern would be is if we're teaching a filtered version of history specifically to ensure that it's filtered, that's a problem. If it's taught now. Right,
yeah.
If it's taught, and if the goal is to remove some of the filtration, but the problem would be is if you don't do it in a way that isn't also too complicated or too broad for the age group, it's not going to work. So like you said, it can make sense in high school, certain things, especially if you teach a bigger world view of things, people will just start understanding like it's not, exactly the, storybook style, George Washington and the cherry tree kind of things. Those are anecdotes told to help us feel community and story, but not necessarily honest and 100% perfectly true history.
Yeah, because like I don't think most people really even know that most of the founding fathers owned slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Like the vast majority of them owned slaves. So when they talk about telling the truth in history, it's like, well, why aren't we told that in school? But they want to say all men are created equal, but back then it wasn't all men. It was mainly just white men, and definitely no women. And say again?
Only adult male landowners.
Yeah. And it's just like, so like from the get-go, like if you just told that in school and you're like, oh yeah, that means everybody, right? No, it doesn't mean everybody. It's a very small subset of people that meant. And I think being truthful about that, to me at this point in time, it's more important because listen, people are flawed. Everybody's fucking flawed, and we're putting like the founding fathers and other people like back in the day on these pedestals, and it's like they're just people. They made some mistakes, and so if you want to talk about just their successes, I think that's incredibly disingenuous to people that you want to be patriots as they grow up. You know, because you're just telling them half of the story. So
what I think that would need to include, because what I think is key to kind of understanding those founding fathers is that while they knew that that wasn't what was happening at the time and that they could not get that to be truly 100% purely honest in the society that they existed in, that they were like, that they had hoped, right? And that they foresaw some world in which that was there. And maybe they believed that that should be true, but understood that that's not where they were today and had to make all these compromises in order to get some kind of a society which should hopefully be strong and stable and be able to grow towards that. Especially a lot of them fought like to try to get something in there to hopefully make it move towards that. I think there were enough. They were trying compared to those who did want to retain the system that was keeping them in power and in position, while still believing in these like Renaissance concepts brought forth by Machiavelli, where these are ideas that people should be afforded all of these basic rights, regardless of who they are, what city state they're from, or what country they're from. But they just knew it wasn't really going to happen today, and they had to build something that could be real and exist today, but then hopefully could grow.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. And they could talk about that. Like, there definitely should have been some sort of internal struggles within the founding fathers. You know what I mean? So I don't believe for a fucking second, now that I'm more educated now than I was before, I don't believe for a second that they are all just like, oh yeah, this all sounds correct. There was no arguments. Yeah, we're good. You know what I mean? Like there were definitely arguments of like what's going to go into the original Bill of Rights, and like how we want to treat people going forward, and what's the future of America going to look like. Like I'm sure that it was different from person to person, and I would love to hear at least some of that. I understand you can't teach all of it because you need to go to like more advanced history class, but you need to like stop sugarcoating like what happened in America. I mean, like we still have stories of like fucking Pocahontas and Christopher Columbus. Like these are all taught in school still, and like they're just bullshit stories. It's bullshit, and people just
They're certainly not the story that you're told.
Yeah,
they did. Those are real stories. They just did not happen the way.
Yeah. So yeah, just
can you imagine because there's not one. Can you imagine a Christopher Columbus done Pocahontas style? Like, because there's a Pocahontas movie.
Yeah,
that's not the real story of Pocahontas. But then, like, imagine what would the Disney Christopher Columbus be?
I bet you they were all friends, and like he just helped them build their things up. But then they'd have to lie from the get go. They'd have to just basically say there was like nobody here except for like a couple of thousand, savages, as they called them back then. A couple of thousand savages, but there was like millions of people that lived here. So that's another thing they don't tell you in history classes in elementary school and in high school. Like,
well, yeah, you have to dig deep. You have to dig deep. Even 400 years before, 500 years before when the Vikings first landed in Greenland, and then sent an expedition south, about as far south as North Carolina. They did not even come within 100 knots of the shore, because that far out to sea, they could still smell smoke fires from the shore. So they're like, there's a huge freaking civilization ashore there. I'm not dealing with that because I don't want to follow those people. So they sailed back to Greenland, and like we're like, hey, look, we don't want to head down the coastline right now. And so the estimated numbers is basically that somewhere between then and when Columbus landed, like 60% of the population died to some inherent plague in the seaboard. So it was before any of them came, though. So it was like they had something that just happened on their own, which then weakened them to make it easier for us to then come in and do something.
So there's a good book that you should probably read. It's called 1491. Have you checked that one out yet?
I believe I have, but
Yeah.
I can look history.
So it was more than likely, so even before like the main force of the Europeans came over, it was more than likely smallpox.
Because when did Vespucci go?
I can't remember.
Because he did a couple of landings, but he mostly stayed off the shore and kind of just mapped the coastline. Vespucci.
Yeah, because they were talking about in the book how there was like, the Mayan civilization and a couple other the Central American civilizations that were here already that already had mass die-offs from what was likely smallpox, from what they understood. And like the main smallpox that came from like the main Europe like contingency, that was like, it was a 5-year pandemic for the natives here that just kept dying off from like the same things.
Yeah, see, Vespucci was still after Columbus, so it wasn't his. I don't know then. When did that come out? Because I feel like I've recognized it as a title, but maybe I haven't.
I know they just made an updated version of it, but I just read it a month or so ago. Let me see here, but it's definitely not. The first one was not new. I think it was made in like the mid 2000s, maybe the 90s, and they just updated it.
2005.
2005. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe I have, but I don't know. I'll have to go back and pull it back up if I haven't, because it's definitely the kind of stuff that I get into, and this is, maybe this is what's missing, is how do we incentivize self-education and continuing education and like make that a thing that counts, right? Because like we spend a lot of time reading stuff that makes us better citizens and better participants in our society, but there's no way to recognize that or like say, hey, good job for like digging in a little more and finding some more information on it. I really appreciate you doing that. Here's a way to recognize you for that.
You do a podcast, man. That's how you do it.
You do a podcast. Yeah. I mean, I guess.
No, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, because in the tech field, like this is why I love the tech field. You can get certified in anything in tech. I mean, there's some prerequisites. You have to take like certain tests before other tests, but if you know it, you can take a test anytime you want.
Yeah.
So,
like, did you ever do CLEP or Dante's test at all while you're active?
I don't think so. I was a shitty Marine for a long time. I was good. I was good in the beginning and at the end.
So what I will do for you is I will not argue with you.
Gonna make it tell you about me.
You have a little bit too. So, but so was I. Like, I definitely had my moments, but I think I was shitty for reasons that are still valid about my personal nature and character. Yeah. But because of now my rank and position, it's okay, and I don't like that, right? So I actually had this conversation with someone the other day. I was like, I showed up to my first duty station, and you heard my stories. Like, I learned that I had to take care of things, right? From living like that. And so Cindy and I got married. We had an apartment that we picked up ourselves, and we didn't even use housing or anything when we were in Pensacola. So we packed up all of our stuff, did a Diddy move, got a U-Haul, moved everything to San Diego, left the U-Haul with the U-Haul place, like loaded. We're like, hey, we can store this here and then unload it when we get back. They're like, no problem. Drove to Vancouver, drove back down, found an apartment, signed a lease, moved all our stuff in, and then I checked in. I was like, hey, I'm here to do some work now. And they're like, okay, let's get you over to housing and get you a house. I'm like, no, I'm good. I got an apartment and everything's good. Yeah. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, why not?
You're an adult.
Why would I know or expect you to do things like that for me? Like, if I needed to be in the barracks, I get that. But get an apartment? I didn't think you were doing that. But apparently that's the thing. I didn't know. But yeah, you take care of your own stuff. Oh, you get hammered when you're in Lance Corporal. So
yeah, I moved out of the barracks when I was Lance Corporal, living with my brother. And there's like, you can't do that. I'm like, no, I can. And I'm going to. Like, you can't force me to stay on base. Like, I'll be here on time. But there's nothing in the Marine Corps that says I need to live on base. Say again?
Right, and your room would be clean.
Yeah. So it's like, it was so stupid. I'm just like, why are you forcing me to like have a room here when I don't need to like live? Yeah, I'm wasting quote unquote money on living with my brother, but I'm like, I'd rather live there than have to deal with like somebody trying to inspect my room every like week. Like, I keep my room clean. I don't deal with the barracks nonsense. Just get me the fuck out of here. So
so many people day to day for me right now, even too, right? Like, still struggle with understanding that about people. Like, there are plenty of people who are still going to be really great. You just need to get your boot off their throat.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's kind of frustrating.
Hold on, real quick. Something I tell everybody. I tell everybody this shit when they're like, "Well, how hard was the military? Or how hard was the Marine Corps?" I'm like, Marine Corps is easy. All you have to do is what you're told. But once you have a problem with doing what you're told, that's when you have a problem.
So I always put it. You only have to do 3 things, right? So you have to be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, in the uniform that you're supposed to be in. And as long as you do those 3 things, everything else will figure itself out. Everything else is not really required. Like, do your job well? Nah. But if you showed up on time, in the right uniform.
Yeah, I had a bunch of people I did not do their fucking jobs, and it bothered me because they would be like meritorious fucking promotions, and they had no idea how to do their job. But they should have known how to do it, like memorize all that other Marine Corps shit. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but can you help me fucking do these routes on this router? Can you update some routing tables for me? Or nope, can't do that. I can march Marines though. I'm like, thanks. Like, we don't fucking need that.
So, I mean, despite disclaimer, like, I'm obviously talking a little bit of shit right now, but like, it's frustrating. Like, it's genuinely and honestly frustrating, even for someone who's been doing this as long as I have, that we still have a system that, like, rewards Marines who can't do the technical skill that we've assigned them to do, and we still promote them, keep them in, and like, I'm, as an educated, like, now as the education portion of these fields, expected to somehow make those Marines who don't want to be technical, still want to get promoted, come to these advanced courses, but had zero experience actually doing any of these technical things, get them up to a point where they're now technical. It's like, how do you expect me to do that? They were never invested, never interested, never held accountable, never forced to do so. So this is Marine Corps education, actually. We are still tying it to education.
Yes, education, yeah.
Look at that. I managed to bring it back around.
Yeah.
But so does something like that exist within, like, standard public education stuff, where we need to, like, hold the students accountable for understanding what their goals and objectives are, what their purpose is, and why that's important to them? Do we explain to students? This is something I'm thinking about. I might have to talk with Cindy about it too. Like, do students really understand the impact of the work that they put in or don't put in? Because a lot of Marines, I feel like, just don't get it, right? And they understand that it doesn't really matter, right? So if they don't do really, really well in their technical field, they have options, they have outs, they have other ways to be successful in the Marine Corps. I don't feel like that exists, right? In the public world, within the standard society. You end up homeless, right? If you don't really strive for learning and then push that learning towards being able to get a better paying job so that you can maybe afford one of these stupid fucking expensive houses in these places. I just managed to tie all that shit together.
Yeah, no, it's good. This is a good job. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, so you're fighting against 2 different factors when it comes to that. One is that you're trying to educate children, and with children, they're not going to be able to see, like, the long distance. Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? How do I want to live when I grow up? Because we're not, the way we currently educate our kids is through, like, some super old Prussian system to make workers. And so there's literally, like, zero incentive for our kids to be, creative and really understand, like, where do you fit on this earth as a person, other than, like, oh, I want to get a good job. Well, okay, well, first of all, what kind of good job do you want? And do you really want that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, people they don't put any sort of real thought into, like, what do they want to do. And I got lucky. I knew what I wanted to do since I was 11 years old. And I just fucking kept doing it. But for most people, like, I know people that are my age, they still aren't there. Like, they work at a job, yeah. but they don't really like their job. They don't know why they're doing their job. They don't know what they would do without their job. And it's like people like that for me, they're kind of lost. And even for me right now, like even though I'm doing what I want to do, I'm kind of fucking done with it. Like at this point, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I've been doing this for a while. It's been more than 20 years. I'm just kind of, I'm not coasting, but it's not far. You know, I'm going to a VMware class next week. Thank goodness. Hopefully it'll like respark some shit into my brain. But I'm just like, I've seen so much shit in my lifetime where it's like, you're forcing me to care about this corporation that I don't honestly care about. I really don't. Like, you pay me money, I do a job for you. Other than that, I don't really care.
And I'm obviously, we've talked about it. I'm obviously on the edge of that too. Like, I'm struggling. I'm feeling like I came here with a purpose, and I'm going to try my best to achieve as much of that as I can. I know that it's unrealistic because I have huge friggin' dreams for what I can get done, but it's not going to happen. But if I can get some of those things to start, and even if I could just get the huge juggernaut ball rolling, right? I know that thing will finish when I'm done, because once something's started and funds are allocated and decisions are made, like, nothing's going to stop that thing from happening. How good it is, not as good as if I had done it by myself by hand, but knowing that it has to exist would be cool. But it does feel like someone told me once, like, if you could, like, the personal dream should always be like, whatever you do for a hobby, whatever the thing is that you feel like you do just for fun, if you could get paid to do that, that's the dream, right? So how would you do that? You got to like figure that out. And like, you know, someone always uses the example. So you work this job, you're doing this job, and in your free time on the weekends and when you take vacations, what you like to go do is go rock climbing, right? So you got all your gear, you got your shoes, like, you look at the spots, you're finding all the coolest climbs, you spend all your time going out. And so, like, you're paying people to show you the routes, you're paying people to train you, you're doing all these things. And while you're doing this job to pay for this hobby, you start to realize, like, I've now got skills in this, I've got